What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, taste, and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain. The senses are decoding systems, decoding information into a form that the brain can decode. So the senses are taking waveform information, vibrational information, they're turning into electrical information, they are communicating it to the brain, which then decodes that into a sense of reality we call the world we live in. So the world that we think we're living in exists there. The brain is dark but sees light. How is that possible? How can my brain be totally dark and I see this light? Because that light in its prime form, like everything else, is just an information source. And I'm decoding that information source in here into the visual reality of light, because that's what the information contains. Thus, that's what it manifests when I decode it. This is mainstream science. They talk about dark energy, dark matter. I see that slightly differently, but the principle's the same, what you can see and what you can't see. So you have this massive area of stuff they say exists in this universe, which we can't see. You then have light, electromagnetic spectrum, etc., which is 5% of what they say exists in this universe, and visible light, which is the only frequency band that we can decode into a visual reality. This is the visible spectrum within the electromagnetic spectrum. Look at it, it's tiny, and that's all that we can see. So this is right, there is no spoon. It's not the spoon that bends, it is only yourself, because that spoon only exists in that form when you decode it from energetic information. Information is encoded in what we call light. White light contains all the colors of the spectrum, and colors are frequencies. They're just different frequencies, and when we decode them, we see that color. And we think those flowers are red and yellow. They're not. Nothing has any color. The color is decided in our perception of it.
And the moment the brain puts all of its attention on the cause, it takes a snapshot, and that's called a memory. So long-term memories are created from very highly emotional experiences. So what happens then is that people think neurologically within the circuitry of that experience, and they feel chemically within the boundaries of those emotions. And so when you have an emotional reaction to someone or something, most people think that they can't control their emotional reaction. Well, it turns out if you allow that emotional reaction, it's called a refractory period, to last for hours or days, that's called a mood. I say to someone, hey, what's up? You say, I'm in a mood. Well, why are you in a mood? Well, I had this thing happen to me 5 days ago, and I'm having one long emotional reaction. If you keep that same emotional reaction going on for weeks or months, that's called temperament. Why is he so bitter? I don't know, let's ask him. Why is he so bitter? Why are you bitter? Well, I had this thing happen to me 9 months ago. And if you keep that same emotional reaction going on for years on end, that's called a personality trait. And so learning how to shorten your refractory period of emotional reactions is really where the work starts. So then people, when they have an event, what they do is they keep recalling the event, because the emotions of stress hormones, the survival emotions, are saying pay attention to what happened, because you want to be prepared if it happens again. Turns out most people spend 70% of their life living in survival and living in stress, so they're always anticipating the worst case scenario based on a past experience, and they're literally, out of the infinite potentials in the quantum field, they're selecting the worst possible outcome, and they're beginning to emotionally embrace it with fear, and they're conditioning their body into a state of fear. Do that enough times, the body has a panic attack without you. You can't even predict it because it's programmed subconsciously. And what that means from a biological standpoint is that they haven't been able to change since that event. So then the emotions from the experience tend to give the body and the brain a rush of energy. So people become addicted to the rush of those emotions, and they use the problems and conditions in their life to reaffirm their limitation, so at least they can feel something. So now when it comes time to change, you say to the person, why are you this way? Well, every time they recall the event, they're producing the same chemistry in their brain and body as if the event is occurring, firing and wiring the same circuits and sending the same emotional signature to the body. Well, what's the relevance behind that? Well, your body is the unconscious mind. It doesn't know the difference between the experience that's creating the emotion and the emotion that you're creating by thought alone. So the body's believing, it's living in the same past experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And so then when those emotions influence certain thoughts, and they do, and then those thoughts create the same emotions, and those same emotions influence the same thoughts, now the entire person's state of being is in the past. So then the hardest part about change is not making the same choices you did the day before, period. And the moment you decide to make a different choice, get ready, because it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel unfamiliar. There's going to be some uncertainty.
Why does it feel so uncomfortable? Is it because of the neurons that fire together wire together, so there's like an easiness to that loop, just because literally, and you've talked very eloquently about this, the way that the neurons connect in the brain, how rapidly, I've seen you show footage of how rapidly those connections happen, which is pretty incredible. Is that what makes it so discomforting for people?
I think that the bigger thing is that we keep firing and wiring those circuits. They become more hardwired. So you have a thought and then the program runs. But it's the emotion that follows the thought. If you have a fearful thought, you're going to feel anxiety. The moment you feel anxiety, your brain's checking in with your body and saying, yeah, you're pretty anxious. So then you start thinking more corresponding thoughts equal to how you feel. Well, the redundancy of that cycle conditions the body to become the mind. So now, when it comes time to change, a person steps into that river of change and they make a different choice, and all of a sudden, they don't feel the same way. So the body says, well, you've been doing this for 35 years. Just stop suffering and stop feeling guilty and stop feeling shameful, and you're not going to complain or blame or make excuses or feel sorry for yourself. Well, the body's in the unknown. So the body says, I want to return back to familiar territory. So the body starts influencing the mind, and it says, start tomorrow. You're too much like your mother. You'll never change. This isn't going to work for you. This doesn't feel right. And so if you respond to that thought as if it's true, that same thought will lead to the same choice, which will lead to the same behavior, which will create the same experience, which will produce the same emotion.
When you are moving away from yourself, as long as you're moving back towards your universal essence, your harmony with yourself, your cooperation with the rest, things will start happening in ways that you never dreamt of. And it's a term that we use to explain how unexplainable coincidences sort of happen in our life. And how come these things happen? I'm going to share a couple of those with you before we leave. The quality versus appearance in your life means that you get that inner candle flame working in a way that gives you quality, independent of what other people think of you. Maslow, in defining self-actualizing, no-limit people, said they are independent of the good opinion of other people. Of the good opinion of other people. Independent of it. They're so busy advancing confidently, doing the things that make sense, and bringing success to changing their baby's diaper, and bringing success to weeding their garden, and bringing it to the job. They bring it on the airplane, so that when they run into somebody who is rude to them, a stewardess that is rude, they don't see it as an attack on them. It's just where they are, and they send them love. Help them a little bit, you know. They're kind. When somebody wants to get in on the freeway, it's a new way of being. It's a way of quality, where your harmony allows you to cooperate, and you are a part of what this whole thing is about. New way of being, quality rather than appearances. Another new way of being, very important. Living your life on ethics rather than rules. All these rules, all these ways of having to do things, somebody else dictates to them. Do you know that some of the most immoral acts in the world have been perpetrated in the name of the rules? These are the laws. What do you think Nazi Germany was all about? Everybody doing all these horrible things to other people. I'm only doing my job, was the defense we all heard at Nuremberg. I was just doing my job. If it's an immoral rule, it's immoral to obey it. And self-actualizing people, as Maslow tells us, have rules inside of them that they could never obey, never disobey, ever. And they have to do with ethics, how you treat people. How do you think we get to where we are now? You know who Rosa Parks was? The woman in the South, the black woman in the South who said, not today, I'm not going to the back today, no way. I know what the rules are. The rules were all over the place. If you needed a reminder, there were signs every place, colored in the back, white in the front. And she said, no, I'm sitting here. And that made all the difference. Ethics, not rules. When your children start disobeying rules that need to be disobeyed, don't be surprised.
You know when you're in a crowd, a football crowd of great emotional excitement, you feel like a charge of energy. The hair stands up on your neck. That's electromagnetic. They're electromagnetic fields. So that's what I was feeling. But it did feel like a spider's web on my face. And I said nothing to Betty, but I'm thinking, what the hell? And then about 10 or 15 seconds later, she reels her head back and she said, my God, this is powerful. I've got to close my eyes for this one. And my bum's for going further down the... What have you got yourself into here, Icke? And she starts telling me in March 1990 that I'm going to go out on a world stage and reveal great secrets. I would face enormous opposition, but they, whatever that is, would always be there to protect me. And that there was a shadow over the world, and there was a story that needed to be told, that humanity was going to go through a phase of waking up and coming out of basically its coma, which is programming, and that I was going to go out and do that. One man cannot change the world, but one man can communicate the message that can change the world, was one of the things she said. And I'm sitting there, I'm a television presenter for the BBC, I'm a national spokesman for the Green Party, and I'm thinking, what are you talking about? and so I then leave her and get on a train. She lived near Hassocks in Sussex, or in Hassocks actually, and then I drove up or went up in the train to present a television program. But from that moment on, one of the things that was said, that she said, because she said, the first thing she said is she had no idea about this interaction in the Kensington Hilton. She's saying that they're telling me they know you wanted them to contact you, but the time wasn't right, and you know now you've been brought here to be contacted. And they said they're saying that you're going to be led to knowledge, and at other times knowledge will be put into your mind. Oh, all right, okay, what? So anyway, what I've been like, mate, all my life is I've never dismissed things that I can't know absolutely are not true. I have this policy, I put things on the back burner and I see what comes. And if more information comes to support it, there comes a point where there's so much information supporting that it crosses the line, and you start to say, okay, I accept this is what's happening. But I don't just dismiss things, and never have, on the basis that they're different, just being the way I've always been. Yeah, it was. And one of the things was that, it was going to be tough. And so when I left her house and got on with life, very, very quickly, synchronicity, coincidences started to occur, where I'd meet people, come across information, come across books, come across documents, whatever, that were starting to hand me puzzle pieces. And I started to realize, as it built up and it built up and it built up, that actually the world was not like I thought it was. Well, not like I thought it was. I didn't really have a view on that. I never did believe that politicians around the world. I always felt there was something else.
Perspective is a word that seems very simple, but I think it's very powerful. It's very easy to get seduced into making something small a lot larger than it is. And perspective simply reminds us to go to 50,000 feet on a bad day and count our blessings. Perspective simply reminds us that things could be a lot worse. Perspective on a bad day is simply understanding that we live in a world where half the world's population lives on less than $2.50 a day. Perspective on a bad day is reminding yourself of that Persian proverb which says, "I cursed the fact I had no shoes until I saw the man who had no feet." Perspective is such a powerful word. Here's a great question on a bad day to bring on some perspective. Has anyone died here? So perspective is something I really want you to think about, and on a bad day, it will actually allow you to turn the lead into gold and really pivot. Which brings me to the second P of turning a bad day into a great day, and it's pivot. And here's the question to really help you pivot. WTOH. What's the opportunity here? So you're having a bad day, maybe you had a fight with someone, maybe you lost the big sale, maybe someone cut you off in traffic and then you didn't get your favorite lunch, and then you missed getting into Soul Cycle class, and then you had a difficulty on the way home. So let's say that's happening. You simply run the WTOH question, which will allow you to pivot. WTOH, what's the opportunity here? See, there's great power in a question, and it allows your brain to hunt for something good. And so how do you pivot? You ask yourself, what's the opportunity here? You have a fight with someone, let's say one of your family members. You say, what's the opportunity here? Well, your brain then starts to look for the opportunity, which is, I can learn how to communicate better. Or this is an opportunity for me to show forgiveness and grow in my personal bravery. This is an opportunity for me to understand my family member better. It's a great and powerful question. Which brings me to my third P in turning a bad day into a great day. And it's really pharmacy. The third P is pharmacy. And that's all about moving. When I have a difficult day, here's one of the first things I do. I will get on my mountain bike and I will ride like a bat out of wherever through the forest, and that releases dopamine in my brain, which is the neurotransmitter of inspiration. And that releases serotonin. Moving right on the bicycle, it releases serotonin, which is the pleasure neurotransmitter. And it cuts down on my cortisol, which is the fear hormone. So just simply going for a mountain bike ride, or going for a swim, or getting into yoga class, or something as simple as going for a walk, or maybe even doing jumping jacks when no one's looking, will create a pharmacy of mastery within your brain, which will affect your psychology, your neurobiology, and your interior life, which makes you just feel a lot better.
You need to feed your mind. Now, a lot of times people say, yeah, you know, when I'm down in the dumps just a little bit, I really enjoy listening because it gives me a lift. Well, I'm glad to hear that, but let me give you the most surprising news maybe you've ever heard. It's good to listen when you're down. But folks, the ideal time to listen is when you're sky high. Let me tell you why. When you're down, sometimes you grab at straws, and sometimes you grab the wrong straw. Also, a lot of times, and here's the real benefit to listening, it triggers your imagination, stirs up all of the stored information which you already have in your mind, and a lot of the good ideas then come forth. But if you're too down to accept them, then you turn away the very best ideas of all. Listen when you're up. And then with those endorphins popping, and they do pop as a result of listening to good motivational recordings, when you listen then and new ideas pop in your mind, it generates even more excitement. Here's what we've discovered. You need to listen at least 16 times to get the complete message. That's the reason I say listen to this over 16 times, because you will get all of it then. It will become a part of you. Let me say it again. You probably have been in the process of making decisions right now. As you listen, you will make those decisions. But as you listen over and over, the decision changes to commitment. And once you've made the commitment, then you will seek the training which will make the difference, because that means behavior changes. And when you change behavior, then you start developing winning habits. And that's what this is really all about. Step number 7, if you want to build a winning attitude, you need to take time, and this is probably going to surprise you based on what you've heard me say so far, but you need to take time to be quiet. You know, the average American sleeps 30 minutes too late every day. And when that opportunity clock does sound off, they hit the floor, I mean, in a dead run. They scoot past the kiddies' room on the way to the kitchen. They bang on the door, and they say, "Get up, kids, we got to go to school." Now, I don't have to tell you again, we were late yesterday morning. Don't want it to happen again. And they scoot on back to the kitchen. They plug in the coffee maker and the toaster, and on the way back by the kids' room, they bang again. Now, what I tell you, not going to have to tell you again. They scoot in, they get dressed real fast, you know, they shave and apply their makeup, and by then the kids are up. They rustle them into the den, and they set a bowl of cereal in front of them, turn the television set on, running their mind and their body all at the same time. They gulp their breakfast down, they hop in their car, and woe be to that person who dares to pull in on them when they've got the traffic jump on them. I mean, it will be too bad for them if they do. They hustle down, they drop their kids out, they rush on down to their work, and they're busy all day, and in the evening they come home and repeat that process, and by the time they get ready for bed, after watching 3.5 hours of television, they are exhausted.
Sit on your bed one day and ask yourself, what remarkably stupid things am I doing on a regular basis to absolutely screw up my life? And if you actually ask that question, but you have to want to know the answer, right? Because that's actually what asking the question means. It doesn't mean just mouthing the words. It means you have to decide that you want to know. You'll figure that's out so fast it'll make your hair curl. There's no better pathway to self-realization and the ennoblement of being than to posit the highest good that you can conceive of and commit yourself to it. And then you might also ask yourself, and this is definitely worth asking, is do you really have anything better to do? And if you don't, well, why would you do anything else? If you orient yourself properly and then pay attention to what you do every day, that works. And I actually think that that's in accordance with what we have come to understand about human perception, because what happens is that the world shifts itself around your aim. Because you're a creature that has an aim. You have to have an aim in order to do something. You're an aiming creature. You look at a point and you move towards it. It's built right into you. And so you have an aim. Well, let's say your aim is the highest possible aim. Well, then, so that sets up the world around you. It organizes all of your perceptions. It organizes what you see and you don't see. It organizes your emotions and your motivations. So you organize yourself around that aim, and then what happens is the day manifests itself as a set of challenges and problems, and if you solve them properly, then you stay on the pathway towards that aim, and you can concentrate on the day. And so that way you get to have your cake and eat it too, because you can point into the distance, the far distance, and you can live in the day. And it seems to me that that makes every moment of the day supercharged with meaning. That's how, because if everything that you're doing every day is related to the highest possible aim that you can conceptualize, well, that's the very definition of the meaning that would sustain you in your life. Well, and then the issue is, well, back to Noah. Well, all hell's about to break loose and chaos is coming. It's like when that's happening in your life, you might want to be doing something that you regard as truly worthwhile, because that's what will keep you afloat when everything is flooded. And you don't want to wait until the flood comes to start doing that, because if your ark's half built and you don't know how to captain it, the probability is very high that you'll drown. Ask and it shall be given you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. That sounded pretty optimistic again. But again, I think it's a description of the structure of existential reality, and by which I mean, when I'm in my clinical practice and I observe, and this is also the case with my students, is, let's say, people's lives aren't what they would like them to be. And so then you ask, why? Well, forget about tragedy and catastrophe, because that's self-evident, and we're not going to discuss that. Although the degree to which you bring about your own tragedy is always indeterminate. But I would never say that every terrible thing that is visited on a person is something they deserved. I think that that's a very dangerous presupposition, especially because everyone gets sick and everyone dies. But one of the main reasons that people don't get what they want is because they don't actually figure out what it is. And the probability that you're going to get what would be good for you, let's say, which would even be better than what you want, right? Because, you know, you might be wrong about what you want easily, but maybe you could get what would really be good for you. Well, why don't you? Well, because you don't try. You don't think, okay, here's what I would like if I could have it. And I don't mean in a way that you manipulate the world to force it to deliver you goods for status or something like that. That isn't what I mean. I mean something like, imagine that you were taking care of yourself like you were someone you actually cared for. And then you thought, okay, I'm caring for this person. I would like things to go as well for them as possible. What would their life have to be like in order for that to be the case? Well, people don't do that. They don't sit down and think, all right, you know, let's figure it out. You've got a life. It's hard, obviously. It's like 3 years from now, you can have what you need. You got to be careful about it. You can't have everything. You can have what would be good for you, but you have to figure out what it is, and then you have to aim at it. Well, my experience with people has been is if they figure out what it is that would be good for them, and then they aim at it, then they get it. And it's strange because they don't it's a strange thing. It's not quite that simple because, you know, you may formulate an idea about what would be good for you, and then you take 10 steps towards that, and you find out that your formulation was a bit off, and so you have to reformulate your goal. You know, so you're kind of going like this as you move towards the goal. But a huge part of the reason that people fail is because they don't ever set up the criteria for success. And so, since success is a very narrow line and very unlikely, the probability that you're going to stumble on it randomly is 0. And so there's a proposition here, and the proposition is, if you actually want something, you can have it.
You're here right now at this moment because tomorrow you want to be somebody greater than the person you are today. You see yourself succeeding, you have a vision, you have a dream. Congratulations. You're already 10 steps ahead of 95% of the world. Imagine if Michael Jordan was scared of missing. He would have never taken a shot. Imagine if Steve Jobs was afraid of people not liking his product. There would be no iPhone. So ask yourself this. Do you want to be a person who fears failure, or do you want to be a person who loves success? Which one? Because you're going to have to pick today. And I'll tell you one thing. One is a failure, and one is a success. And if you love success, there is nothing that can stop you. All those negative things people say will mean nothing. They're going to talk about how only 1% make it to the top. Big deal. Want to know something else? Only 1% stick with that fitness program long enough to see results. Only 1% of nerds stick with that video game long enough to get good at it. Only 1% of relationships stick it out to the end. That doesn't mean you have a 1% chance. It just means you can't behave like the 99%. You'll have to do something better than giving up a month from now. Those are just numbers. You want to talk about numbers? Take a look around you and take a good look around you. Are you like 99% of the people around you? If you are, then you're in the wrong video, my friend. You have to love success just as much because that's what's going to allow you to get up and go for it. Being scared to fail won't do anything. In fact, when you love success and you start going for it, guess what happens? You're gonna fail. You're gonna fail 10 times, 100 times, maybe even 1,000 times. But that's okay. Failure isn't permanent. Falling isn't permanent. You get right back up and keep going. And this time, You're gonna be stronger, wiser, and you'll be more driven than ever. And for every 10 failures, you'll land one success. You have to love success so much that you're willing to fail 10 times before you can succeed once. That's how a winner does it. I want to explain the biggest myth that most people think leads them to success. And here's the myth. You might believe if you're scared to fail, you won't fail. Lies. Biggest myth ever. And I believed it. You see, I always thought that being scared to fail in life would literally keep me from failing. I would look at the losers around me and I would say, sheesh, I never want to turn out like him. I really believed this train of thought would help me succeed. Until one day, I was walking down the street and I saw an old man. Had a hat, suspenders, and a cane. Was about 80 years old. This old man was barely walking. He could walk, but the cane helped a lot. He was struggling. So anyway, he was walking across the street and he ended up falling. So I went over to go help him. And he gets up, says thank you, and we introduced ourselves. Had a little conversation. Told me his name and I told him mine. His name was Robert, by the way. And right as he walked away, I told him, this is what I said. Robert, you should stay inside where it's safe, my friend. And Robert turns around and says to me, I love walking. And I love walking way more than I'm afraid of falling. So I ask him, well, what about your safety? Don't you want to live? And he told me this. These are the exact words he said. He said this. Solo, living means doing what you love to do. And if I have to fall here and there to do what I want to do in life, then so be it. And he just walked away. Never saw him again. That was it. But that statement really had me thinking, and it had me thinking hard because I learned something that day. That's when I realized the true key to success. You see, I always thought if I could just fear the act of failing, and if I fear it like crazy, I will succeed.
How many of you would love a breakthrough? Number one, you gotta have a permeating attitude that you're gonna win. You gotta have a positive outlook. You gotta be optimistic. You gotta know you're gonna win. Right now, you gotta say, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win. My life is gonna win. There's gonna be a victorious life here. Because listen to me, the price you pay for losing here is too extreme. You have to carry the burden of failure the rest of your life. You carry that around with you. The biggest thing that breaks my heart is you feel the spirit right now, and then when you get back, these dream stealers run into you. And they start to steal your dream, and you quit. You give up. You gotta decide I'm gonna win. You gotta decide that the failure part of carrying failure, you've been exposed to what your life could be. If you fail here, the price is extreme. It's forever. You carry the failure forever. I'm being honest with you. You gotta know you're gonna win. You gotta sell out. Yeah, I'm telling you, you gotta become a sellout. You need to sell out. You need to get obsessed. You got to get relentless. You got to be a road dog. You got to get intense. That's what you got to do. You got to put your head down for a 4 to 6 year window like the best you ever had. This is going to be the best run we've had. We're playing offense again. We're selling the dream again. You can feel it. There's some dream stealers. You need to look out for these 4. Lack of confidence or faith. Lack of belief. It'll steal your dream. You got to know you're going to win. You got to have some faith. Don't give in to lack of belief, lack of confidence. You were made to do something great. You're special. You were made in the image of God. Something awesome's supposed to happen for you. And those of you that have made something awesome happen, something even more awesome's supposed to happen for you. Number 2 thing that steals the dream, failure and setbacks. People quitting, chargebacks, flunking the exam. That's all going to happen. Just get ready. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to do something great, you're going to have false start after false start. False start after false start. Get it going, then you don't. Get it going, then you don't. Your group grows, then it shrinks. I'm telling you right now, just know that. You're going to make some money, then you're not. Being an entrepreneur, tons of false starts, tons of setbacks. But see, a guy like me, I knew someone was better than me. There's more talented people than me, probably more talented than you. But like my dad said, the best ability is availability. You might outwork me for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, but you ain't gonna beat me over a year. You can't outwork me over 2 years. You aren't gonna outwork me over 3 years. I'm gonna get you eventually. I'm a dripping damn faucet. I just keep coming at you. Just like you could be, right? Just like you could be. I just keep coming. You might think I'm knocked out. I just keep coming. I'm too damn tough to give up.
It was very difficult to pick myself up each day believing that I could do it. There were times that I doubted myself. I said, God, why is this happening to me? I'm not trying to steal or rob from anybody. Why did this have to happen to me? It was very hard. And here's what I want to say to you. For those of you that have experienced some hardships, don't give up on your dream. No one could have convinced me by holding on, by continuing to push forward, by continuing to run toward my dream, that one day I would have my own talk show. It's a long shot, ladies and gentlemen, from Liberty City, an abandoned building on a floor, never knowing my mother or father. It's a long shot. No college training, labeled educable, mentally retarded, but I kept running toward my dream. Don't stop. Don't stop.
Most people half-ass half their life all the time. I knew they were going to get tired. They were going to flinch. They were going to get down. They may not quit. They might sit in a letter resume. They quit getting wide. They quit recruiting people. They quit improving themselves. They start sleeping in. They spend all their damn money. I'm not going to do that stuff. I'm going to save money. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to keep getting wide. I'm going to stay relentless, just like you should. Don't give in to that stuff. Don't give in to the fears. Don't give in to the setbacks. You're going to have failure. It's part of the game. I want someone taking your damn dream. Your lack of confidence, your lack of faith, some setbacks, okay? Last thing. Guess who steals your dream? Family and friends. Family and friends. Hey, you gave it your best shot. You sure it's not a scam? By the way, the reason they hurt you so damn much is because you love them. And they love you. And they're really doing it mainly because they love you and they don't want you to get hurt. My mom does the same stuff. Why don't you slow down, sweetheart? How much is the electric bill on this house? I'm like, Mom, I'm pretty sure I got the electric bill covered on this place, right? It's your family's job to try to reduce your pain level. Love them, but don't let them steal your dream. It might even be someone you're with. You got to face them head on. Someone starts trying to take your dream, you need to fire hose their ass. They start dripping on you. Listen to me. I had an uncle like that. They start dripping on you. You go, hey, shut it. Just so you know, you have no freaking idea what you're talking about. You're wasting your time. You're pissing me off. And if you want to talk to me anymore, don't ever say that to me again. Listen to me. The people in life that win play offense, not defense. Stop backing into everything. Stand up. Bow your back a little bit. Start to walk a little different. Start to be that best version of you. You can do it in your quiet way. You can do it the way you do it. But somehow they got to look at you and go, okay, I won't monkey with that one. You push back. You know squirrels can't find 74% of the nuts they hide? Why does that matter? Because you've been burying your dreams all your damn life. And guess what? You keep thinking you're waiting for the right time. When winter comes, you go find your little acorns, right? You think you're going to find them? Let me tell you something. You keep burying those dreams, the longer you wait, the harder they are to find. It's time you dig those things out right now and find them and put them right in front of you again and go chase them. You can have a great family and a great business and a great financial situation and feel great about yourself and travel the world and do whatever the heck it is you want. But you need to dig those dreams out right now. I want you to start picturing, what is it that you really want? Why are you really doing this? Really? Is it for any of those people sitting around you? Do you want to make any of them proud of you? Do you want to do wonderful things for your children? Do you want your children to know they can do anything in life because you've done anything in your life? There'll be setbacks. There's people being mean to you. That's all part of the process. That's part of the jockstrap. That's part of the best day of your life, worst day of your life stuff. Now, are you willing to do the ugly, by the way? The ugly is doing all the stuff the people who lose aren't willing to do. You're going to have to put up with some rejection. You got to put yourself in an uncomfortable place. Listen to me. Do it. Put yourself in an uncomfortable place. Don't negotiate it. Unrealistic people rule the world. Quit trying to be so dadgum realistic. Remember this. Weird, rich, normal, poor. Get a little goofy. You got to get a little road dog in you. People are looking for leaders. People are looking for you. People say, what makes me a leader? Makes you a leader is your example. What makes you a leader is you investing belief and loving and caring about people. Any one of you in this moment could decide you're going to lead. Because leadership is instilling something in someone that they don't see in themselves. Believe in them, care about them, tell them the truth. That's what a leader is. You got to rise up. You got to make your dreams a reality and live a damn masterpiece. You know this. Now, here's the thing. You got to make a decision. Listen to me. You got to make a decision. What's the decision? Now we're at the moment. The clock is ticking. People say all the time, hey, life is short. Let me tell you something. Life can be long. You bury your dreams, you quit this, life gets long. See, time's relative. 2 minutes of you being with your sweetie, doing whatever you like to do with them, that can go by quick, right? What's about the last 2 minutes on a treadmill? Does that not seem like it goes by for like 4 hours, right? So if you're enjoying it, it's short. If it's painful, it's long. Life can be long. You want a life that feels like it's flying by. You want a life like I have right now where I go, can I just press pause? Can I just press pause? It's so good. It's so great. It's so rewarding. It's so awesome. But I don't really want to press pause because I know it can get better. So what's the decision? Is the decision to stop worrying about what people think? Is the decision to something in a relationship you have you need to get out or into and shake it? Is it a decision to get off of some drug or alcohol you're on? What's the decision? Right now, what is it? What have you been hesitating on? What are you afraid of? Face it. Right now, what do you need to decide? Is it getting aggressive? Is it believing in yourself? Is it coming full time? I don't know what it is for you. What's the decision? Maybe there's someone in your life that you need to get out of your life. Maybe there's someone you need in it and you need to tell them you love them and get them back in it. I don't know. But I know this. It's only a thought if you don't take an action. The difference between a thought and a decision is an action. So we know and you just decided and you know what it is. You know what it is. You will have really decided if within this next hour you took some step towards it. Something. A note you write, a text you send, a decision you've made, something you do that you follow up with the action to make it real. That's a step.
If you are building for the future, then you have to reimagine your strategy. This is how you're going to do it. You're going to do it through a strategy. What is a strategy? A synchronized step-by-step plan from point A to point B. Your strategy is important. You've got to fix your strategy. If you've been doing what you've been doing for 5 years and it's not working, it doesn't mean you need to give up your idea. You might need to give up your strategy.
Everything that exists, everything within all creation, manifests through the harmonic vibration of light and sound. Everything that exists is light and sound. Everything that exists is, at its most basic form, simply pure energy.
You have to persuade infinite beings, multidimensional infinity, which we call humans, to believe that they are ordinary men and women in the street with no friggin' power.
This is my body, that's your body. This is my mind, that's your mind. There's no such thing as this is my life and that's your life. This is a living cosmos. Everybody is free to capture as much as they want. If you capture a substantial amount of life, your very presence will become a significant life, otherwise you will become a mediocre life. This is the important thing. It's not the knowledge you gather in your head. It's not the muscle that you gather in your body. It's the life well. To use another analogy. A dream, let us say we're dreaming that we're being attacked by a tiger in that condition. we're really afraid we're perspiring, we may even be rolling and screaming in our bed now, is that dream. Real or illusion, the reality is we are having that dream.
And energy is the stuff that drives the universe itself. All things are created from this energy. If you really get down to it and look at reality on a quantum level, it's all about different vibrational frequencies of light and sound. Everything. And it's all connected because all is energy. What we experience in the reality that we live in is that everything is connected by energy, and the energy permeates everything, much like the water permeates everything that exists within the ocean. You see, we're actually swimming in an ocean too, folks. It's an ocean of energy.
And to do that, you have to spend centuries and centuries suppressing the knowledge and the information that would allow people to see the true genius that we all are. Instead of being infinite beings, the idea is to put us in these eggshells, as I call them. Eggshells overwhelmingly made up of the four-letter word that controls the world, fear. So we shut out all that infinite levels of ourselves.
Why are you laughing? This makes a lot of sense. So you're out here and you're groping around and you're looking for your keys and you're looking and looking, and your neighbor comes along and says, what happened? Wait, well, I dropped my keys. Oh, I'll help you look for him. And the two of us are now down here looking for our keys and looking. Finally, he says to me, excuse me, but where did you drop your keys? Well, I dropped it in the house, he said. You mean to tell me that you dropped your keys in the house and you're looking for them out here in the streetlight? Doesn't make any sense. And I said, well, it doesn't make any sense to grope around in the dark when there's light out here. Now you laugh and think how silly that is. But isn't that exactly what we do when we have a problem?
We are quite literally moving through an ocean made of energy that permeates absolutely everything. And this is why everything is connected. This is why everything is one. Everything comes from a single source. And this is how we are connected, and it's how we are also completely separate. Now, when you really begin to get a grasp on this, and you really begin to figure out what's going on here, and you realize that the body is simply a biological computer that's downloading a specific frequency that you experience as yourself, you really begin to question why human consciousness is in such a disunited state. You begin to see how easy it would actually be to change reality. And you have to also begin to question how we got into this disunited state. We only have 3% of our DNA active. We're only experiencing a very, very small bandwidth of reality. And that most of our body's shut down. Our pineal gland is completely inoperative.
All that knowledge, inspiration, wisdom, understanding, instinctive knowing, and we operate in a fraction of who we are. Only then can the few control the mass. And if people think, and I understand it, that a few people couldn't control this planet because there's too many people to control, well, they just have to look at what happens to herds of sheep every day all over the world. If those sheep expressed their uniqueness and didn't succumb to fear, they thought for themselves, it would be impossible to control those sheep. But how is it done then? We find that we have actually out-sheeped the sheep. We have dispensed with the sheepdog. We police each other.
The reality there are tigers somewhere the illusion is we're identifying with it. We're thinking that that is me in this dream, and the tiger is about to eat me. But in actuality, the dream is real, we're real, but when we're misidentifying with that dream, thinking that that's happening to me now, then that's the illusion, that's the idea of yoga, or true spirituality, to actually learn to live in harmony with one's own self. We have this physical body, we have the mind, and all of the thoughts and emotions that comes through the mind. But who are we? I'm seeing through my eyes, I'm hearing through my ears, I'm touching through my flesh, I'm tasting through my tongue, I'm thinking through my brain, and I'm loving through my heart. But who is that me? That me is the essential consciousness that's giving life to every other aspect of our existence, our body and our mind.
When you really look at the entire human organism from an energetic perspective, it is something that is virtually inoperative. The higher senses are simply not functioning. The connection and the ability to be able to read and decode the energy field around us is virtually non-existent. And because of this, we are literally experiencing about 3% of reality. If you had a car and it was operating to 3% of its capability, if you had a computer that was functioning on 3% of its processor power, able to access 3% of the internet and use 3% of its graphics, in both cases you would consider your machinery to be inoperative. And yet what we have is human consciousness driving a vehicle that is in exactly this same inoperative state. But we don't realize it's happening because we don't look at reality from the correct perspective.
Consciousness it's unique, but it's part and parcel of what is universal. And unless we understand that uniqueness of our own true consciousness, then we can't really appreciate the universal nature and how we're all actually connected. Everything is connected, and everyone is connected, and everything and everyone in this world is interdependent. And Emerson said that the reason why there's so many problems in this world is because human beings are disconnected from their own true self. The senses, the mind, the intelligence requires to be in harmony with the heart, and with the living force within the heart, which we call the soul or the spirit. And when we understand the sacredness, the beauty, the eternal nature of our own spirit, then we can recognize it in creation, and we can recognize it in others.
It makes it easier, yeah, but it doesn't cross the line where it becomes possible. That line is crossed when those who concede their mind to someone else's norms then insist that everyone else does the same. Because that's when the human race becomes not only the sheep, but the sheepdog. That's the point when we police each other. And when you've created this herd mentality, my goodness me, it's been around for a few thousand years now, and you've got people to police each other. What you do then is you break up the herd mentality into warring factions. What you do is you create organizations and belief systems that can be played off against each other, like religions, political parties, economic systems, and all this stuff.
When we don't realize, experience, perceive the sacredness of our own true self, then our perception is an illusion of the world. But when we understand who we are, and understand our harmony and relationship with the world around us, and the people around us, then we're actually seeing everything as truth. We're seeing as a spiritual reality, even in this world, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Albert Einstein once observed that you have the most fundamental and major decision that you have to make in your life is this: to live in a friendly or a hostile universe. Which is it a universe that is filled with hostility and anger and people wanting to hate each other and people wanting to kill each other? Is that what you see? Because when you see the world that way, that's exactly what you will create for yourself in your life.
And then you get people to fight and war with each other. So now we're not only a herd mentality, the herd mentality is at war with itself. And while we're cussing each other and shouting each other and blaming each other, the few are pulling the strings of all sides. Because if you are going to hold a position of global control, you have to have conflict and chaos. You try manipulating harmony. You try manipulating people who have respect for another's right to be different. Someone with a different vision of possibility shows that the norms are not the only possible reality.